Joining us here on Ref the District, it is the host of Trap or Dive podcast. You can also find him on Twitch. Let Maul tell it. And he's not related to Derek Forrest. This is Jamual Forrest. How's it going?
Hey, everything's good, man. You know, like I said, we just talked about it for a quick second. I swear, if I was talking about Derek Forrest, if I was related to him the way I was talking about him, I'm sure we wouldn't be family anymore.
Well, what were you saying?
Invited to the barbecue.
Hey, well, look, man. Look, I'll put it this way: the man was blocking people on Twitter just for mentioning him, and to my surprise, I escaped it. But when we'll talk about it, I've never seen a person bite so hard on a play fake, and to the fact that the pass was thrown and he didn't even realize it was a fake until the pass was thrown. I've never seen anything like it. And I didn't let it go for like 24 to 48 hours. So I'm surprised I wasn't blocked.
He might as well have just run to the sidelines. He kept following that ball so far.
Hey, look, 95 was probably about a mile away. He could have just kept going. You know, figure out where to go from there.
It wasn't that far away. Strategic though for him to block. Do you think it's childish, or do you think it's, hey, he needs to block out all that negative stuff to focus on himself? Do you think maybe it's that? Do we give him the benefit of the doubt?
Hey, Nathan, I'm actually glad that you asked that question because I ain't gonna lie to you, I think it's childish. And the reason why I think it's childish is because when you're in the position that you're in, and not only you being in the position that you're in, but you're a rookie. You're not even a veteran in the league, and for some reason, you're blocking people, showing that the pressure is getting to you already, or you just want to block out negativity. I understand that part, but it comes with the game. So how many people are you going to block after you search your name and figure out how many people was talking about you? Like, do you want to look for the negativity, or do you want to just go ahead and focus on your game? Because you know for a fact, if you're blocking people, you had to play bad. You couldn't have played that good if you out there looking for your name and saying, all right, I gotta find the good in what people were saying. But while I look for that good, let me go ahead and block everybody who was talking trash about me.
Excellent. So we're going to transition from not just Derek Forrest, but also the rookies that were also drafted in this late round. And I think maybe as Washington fans, we had our hopes up high, right? Cam Curl was a hit last year. He still looks good this year. And now you have Shaka Toney, you have Bradley King, who is actually playing reasonably well. And then you have someone like Derek Forrest, who's not, right? Shaka Toney is another person who you really haven't seen, ball out in preseason, haven't really heard much from camp. Did we set our expectations too high for these end of the draft players?
I personally think yes and no. Depends on how deep in the draft you want to go. Derek Forrest in the 5th round was not a good pick. That's like, even when we picked them, I was like, who? Like, what did he do with Cincinnati? Oh, okay, cool. But it was also like Cincinnati. No shade to them, but it was like they aren't like a BCS or like a top whatever. So yeah, I think the Cam Curl and the couple other guys who we picked up in late rounds that blossomed, I think that got us, hooked, and expect that every single draft. And this year might not be that way. So yes.
And James Smith-Williams last year too. He was a 7th rounder, I think, and he's a solid backup, right? Yeah, so it is kind of one of those things where you almost expect nowadays for these late round guys to hit. When you had Trey Quinn, who we all thought was going to be a great
Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah, we thought, but he wasn't. And then this year you've got guys. Dax Milne seems to be performing quite well. And
people, of course, fall in love with Dax the same way they fall in love with Trey Quinn.
Right.
Let's hope this time it pans out.
And then also the undrafted free agent Patterson, of course, has been great. But I wanted to ask Jamual about the safety specifically. Then, if you obviously don't like Forrest, who do you think are going to be the 4 or maybe even 5 safeties who come out on the 53?
Okay. All right. So one quick thing. It's not that I don't like Forrest, but what I will say right now is that he looks lost. And things are moving a little bit too fast for him. I will give him credit for the one play at the goal line where he forced the fumble, and they kind of BS them on that penalty. It's when things happen so quickly and somebody's diving them, trying to make a play and score a touchdown. Forrest, the safety, the defender, they're going to react the way he did, and every single time is going to look like that. You cannot call the flag for something like that. He made a play. He made a football play, forced the fumble. give him credit. But Forrest is a person who's playing a little bit slower than I anticipated, that many people anticipated. He looks lost out there, and in that sense, I'm just thinking that he's a practice squad guy. But for sure, to answer your question, Chris, he's not. I'm not seeing him as that 4 people that you're going to ask me about. And I think right now I'm looking at Landon Curl. Obviously the guy from Miami who continues to slip my mind every single time I think about him. McCain. And then you're looking at Everett or Reeves. And that's kind of where you're at with it. I mean, obviously Landon Collins is still in there. So, I mean, you're looking at what? Like, Dakota, what are you doing? You're looking at Landon, Jeremy, DeShazer, Cameron, and then Bobby. That's 5. Truth be told, you can keep 5 and still get away with things. You got to maneuver a little bit in terms of your cornerbacks and your defensive line, specifically your defensive tackles. You got to maneuver there a little bit. But that's kind of where I'm at. It's like you can keep 5 or you can keep 4. But Derek Forrest is somebody who I don't see on the roster in terms of making the final 53. The only reason why I'm harping on him is because there has been projections of him making that final 53. I don't see it. And if it's the notion of him being a draft pick, you kind of see Ron Rivera actually made a point. If it wasn't today, it was a couple of days ago. He made a point where he was saying, look, draft picks, look, we understand that we drafted these guys, right? But it doesn't matter what the situation is or what the circumstances is behind this particular player that we have on our roster. If we understand that we made a mistake, or if we understand that there's something that has to go on with these guys, and they're not fit right now to be on this final roster, then we're going to go ahead and understand and admit our mistake and move on. So with that being said, I see 4 to 5 safeties on this roster, the final 53. As and the ones that I mentioned, I mean, they're obviously that's not going to change at all. Thank God Troy Apke's out of the conversation because like we don't have to worry about him in terms of at least safeties. But the cornerback
loves himself some trap key.
Hey, put it this way, Trev. I seen you today as we're recording this. This is Monday. Excuse me. I seen you today. You know, getting a little excited over the plays that he was making in practice. I think he's. I'll put it this way with Apke, because I know we asked about the safety thing. I think Apke has had sporadic moments in practice, both good and both bad. There's been highlights of him playing bad, but then there's also been those moments that you've seen today, right, Trev, where he's had those high moments where you kind of really didn't expect it because the perception of him is that he's just so terrible. So when you kind of see these things with Troy, knowing that he's the athlete that he is, there's hope.
He's got a lot of speed. He definitely is somebody who on special teams you can rely on as a gunner to really, get down there and limit the big plays. So I mean, he's a sneaky pick for the 53.
Maybe he's born to play cornerback and not safety like he's been doing his whole career. Maybe he's just finding out that he can excel at cornerback.
Name the last white cornerback in the NFL.
Jason Sehorn.
Everybody, I'm about to say everybody goes to Jason.
Everybody goes to Jason. Well, help me out here.
Adam Archuleta.
Do you think there's?
Oh man,
so many bad names.
I will say this though, that pass interference play that he had in the game against the Bengals, I give him credit literally up until the moment in which the receiver made an attempt at a catch. Like the coverage was really good. Everything was fine up until the receiver tried to make a catch. He didn't turn his head around. He panicked in a sense. He started looking for the receiver, looking for his arms. Now he starts interfering with the guy, and there goes the penalty. I give him credit for the coverage. He did everything right. And then he just panicked. He had no reason to panic. He did everything right. So I will say that one moment that we all seen, that one penalty, he played pretty well in that instance, and that kind of shows like his growth and development at cornerback. But yeah, you can't panic like that in a position like that, especially especially given that you're in a hot seat of sorts.
You're on the bubble roster, on the roster bubble there. I do have to agree with Trev. I think that he's probably better suited for cornerback because he's used to chasing the wide receivers instead of actually playing on top of them. So
that's just me.
So let's get off track. All right. Hey, Jamal, I have a question for you too now.
Yeah.
So today is Monday. 5 more cuts happen on Tuesday, which is tomorrow. We saw that Steven Sims was released, but not part of those cuts. Do you see any wide receivers being cut for Tuesday's cut?
I'll put it this way. If there's any receiver that gets cut, is going. Do y'all see this dog? Bro, what is up? What is up with her? Oh my goodness, this is Dakota. Yeah. Yes, a special guest. A 2-year-old husky. 2-year-old husky. She hears me talking to other people and she gets jealous. I just don't understand it. But if there's any receiver that is in danger of getting cut on Tuesday, or at least before the deadline, it'll be Isaiah Wright. If you think about it, there hasn't been any noise about him. You haven't seen that much playing time with him. And matter of fact, I think I could still pull it up as I'm talking. Nikki Giavala of the Washington Post, she posts the snap counts for each player after every single game. And I can pull it out in about 2 seconds. But the thing with Isaiah Wright, and even in preseason in general, you got to understand that people have their opportunities and playing times, and that kind of speaks a lot to where they are in the nature of the team. And look at it. I'm looking right now. There is not one person named Isaiah Wright in the snap count.
Oh man, that's pretty bad.
Wow.
That was kind of where Kelvin Harmon sat after that first game, and he got released right after that. And that's the same thing. I think where Wright might survive Tuesday's cut, which this will air after the cuts have been made, is that he still has practice squad eligibility as one of the junior guys. So that's where I think that he benefits to maybe survive this next cut. But I think as far as in the 53, he's good as gone. But I think that practice squad spot is where he might end up. But yeah, you're right. Isaiah Wright hasn't been heard from really in camp at all. He changed his number because he was 83 last year. I don't like the teen number on him.
It's throwing me off too. And I hate to sound like an old man, but I completely agree. It's annoying. They need to revert
Those
back
numbers.
to what they was doing. Yes. Yeah. Change it back. Change it back. It's throwing me off.
Well, so what do you make of today? After practice today, Ron Rivera was asked about guys, and he specifically mentioned Isaiah Wright about how well he's been playing this preseason, or in camp anyway, in training camp. Now we haven't seen it.
Look at his face.
But he picked out guys that you're like, oh yeah, we've heard a lot about him. Oh yeah, we've heard a lot about him. Oh, and Isaiah Wright.
Yeah.
So what do you make of that?
Hey Chris, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. All of this is fluff, man. You're never going to hear Ron Rivera say anything negatively about a guy in his pressures. The only thing that you got to pay attention to when it comes to somebody that you're kind of sketchy about is what does he say about the person, and what does he say in particular about what he needs to work on, or how much information does he give, or how little information does he give about a player. And when it comes to Isaiah Wright, it's what Ron Rivera is telling us, is it matching up in the game opportunities that he has? He's not given that many opportunities. It's been 2 games. He's not been given that many opportunities. The first game that he's played against the New England Patriots, he had some opportunities. I don't know how many snaps. I can't really recall the snap percentage for that particular game. But what did he do in that game to tell you that he's actually warranted the nod that Ron Rivera gave him? I can't say that he's warranted anything. So while I understand what he's saying, Chris, I'm not entirely too sure that I believe it. It was one player last week that he kind of spoke on where I didn't bite it. I just wish I remembered the name, because this is a perfect way to bring it up, a perfect example. But he's done this a few times. But what I will say, the biggest one is actually last year, Dwayne Haskins.
I talk about it all the time.
There you go.
The biggest one is Dwayne Haskins. He does it all the time. Nathan, you got a big dog, but yeah, he does it all the time. But I know, I can tell that by the excitement. We're on the same page with this one.
Yeah, but the difference though is that people ask him specifically about Dwayne Haskins or ask him about certain players. Nobody asked him about Isaiah Wright. He just volunteered that particular name.
Yeah, I wonder why he did that.
That's what I didn't understand.
Maybe he
Isaiah
did stick
feel
out
right?
that particular practice. And I think he actually didn't say Isaiah Wright. He did just call out numbers, I believe, if I read correctly from some of those tweets.
Well,
so, I mean, the same difference.
Thing,
but
yeah.
my thing with it is, it's coach speak, right? I'm right there with you, Jamal. You heard that with even Steven Sims Jr., where he was just like, yeah, we really believe in him, but he wasn't going to fit with this team. So we wanted to give him a chance to go on another team. Okay, you cut the guy. You cut the guy before the final cuts. He wasn't going to make this team. If you're employing people like Isaiah Wright, Steven Sims Jr. wasn't doing what you needed him to do. And I think you saw the same thing with Kelvin Harmon, where a lot of fans loved him, but he's been out there and no team's picking him up. So this is coach speak. Now, I do want to dive a little bit into that coach speak, because you brought up the praise elements, and Jamal, you specifically were like, naming off some of the elements there. Sammis Reyes is a guy that he talked about, but says that he wants to see him more on the field. What do you think that does for Sammis Reyes? And we obviously a lot of people are invested in this, as this is somebody who's never played football. A lot of the ladies like looking at him.
That dude's jacked, bro. He is.
Fair.
He's pretty jacked.
Strong.
So
SKRNG.
Yeah, he knocked that DB out solid just by running into him. But what do you think Sammis Reyes' chances are of making this roster?
I think this is another good question. And before I give my response, I will ask you all, just in y'all opinion, what are y'all initial thoughts? Like, if you had to give one sentence on Sammis Reyes, where you all at with this guy? At least in one game, because obviously he missed the Cincinnati game. But where are you all with Sammis Reyes? Because he's an intriguing guy, and a lot of people have varying opinions on him. Practice squad, 53, in between, things like that. So if y'all had one sentence to give on Sammis, where are y'all at with him?
I'll start, and I'll say he's a project, and hopefully he can remain a project with this team.
I'm gonna piggyback that and say he's a developmental player, and I want us to develop him for sure.
I'm 3 for 3 here. I mean, I do have $1 writing on him making the 53. I don't know that he'll make that, though. I do think that he'll end up on the practice squad. But I think that this is Sammis Reyes has the raw potential to be a quality tight end in the NFL for 7 years, but that's raw potential. So that's he's not there yet.
Okay. So as we said a few times already, coach speak. And I think when we talk about coach speak, we have to remember, when we hear what the coach is saying, what are we seeing at the same time in the games that are being played? Ron Rivera said Sammis Reyes might... Dakota, bro, you are messing up my moment. Sammis Reyes may be the most physical tight end that we have on the roster. He said that after one game of watching him. And we all know what he did against the Patriots. He was mauling people in the run game. Like, there was no doubt about it. I will ask you this. Who on... Because I know I got warned. I got to watch my mouth. Who do you all know on this roster right now that is capable of being a dominant factor in the run game at the tight end position? There is not any other person. Logan Thomas, he can't block. Ricky Seals-Jones, he's converted wide receiver to a tight end. Then you got John Bates. I will respect him in the sense that he's the only true natural tight end, but he has some work to do in terms of being a more consistent blocker, and that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But Sammis Reyes came out day one and dominated. Like, it was on film. Everybody saw it, things like that. And Ron Rivera stamped him after the game as one of the most physical guys. I don't think Washington has that element right now where you can afford to cut him and hope he goes to a practice, or hope you can claim him to the practice squad, anything like that. Because if you need somebody who can, at least while they're developing as a pass catcher, If you need somebody who can run block and blocking the pass game, inline tight end, I'm blocking the pass game or even run game, excuse me, as an inline tight end, this is your guy. This is your guy. You need to see a little bit more, and I'm in that same boat. You need to see a little bit more, and he's back practicing this week. He's been active, so you need to see a little bit more against the Baltimore Ravens. And I can't wait, fellas. I can't wait to see what he looks like against the Baltimore Ravens. But you have to understand that he has something going for him in his physicality, his size, his strength, and if he can show out again against the Ravens, and he plays well, then yes, he is bottom line, unquestioned, a lock for this final 53.
Oof.
We
Jamal,
got
I
one.
think you're the very first person besides Nathan because of his bet who's actually definitively been like, I think he makes it. You make great points. I didn't even think of it that way. If he's just used as a blocking tight end instead of a passing at the beginning, that'd be fine.
But again, it all depends on how much time we get to see him against the Ravens. Like I said, it does come down to this Ravens game because you have to see more, and I think that's fair. But yes, I do agree. Like if he comes out and shows the same type of physicality against the Ravens, yes, he's a lot. I definitely believe that.
Awesome. Well, what are some of the other things you are expecting to see from the Ravens game? And try to do this in about a minute. See if we can. If you limited us to one sentence on San Luis Rams. I'm going to limit you to 1 minute.
All right.
On what you
I
expect
respect
from this Baltimore game.
Okay. All right. So I'll be quick because this one's gonna be simple, man. It's gonna be the offense. There's gonna be a lot of people who doesn't necessarily have that belief that the struggles in the preseason is going to translate or carry into the regular season. And I think for my side, I kind of tend to lean that way and agree. But there's certain instances in which you kind of got to take into account when it comes to specifics of an offense and how they maneuver. So in between the 20s, the Washington offense, Ryan Fitzpatrick and company, they've been moving quite well. But when you talk about the red zone offenses and their inability to execute when the field is shortened, things become kind of a more significant issue. And you kind of wonder where the chemistry is. You kind of wonder where the accuracy is in terms of like the precision and understanding where to go. The time in between Ryan Fitzpatrick and Adam Humphries is not where it needs to be right now. It's been shown throughout the first two games. And obviously like that, the would-be interceptions against Cincinnati, we don't even know whose fault that is. And that's just being honest. Like people want to put it to Fitzpatrick, but guess what? Adam Humphries stopped. And Ryan Fitzpatrick thought he was going to continue on his drag route. Things like that happens, but you got to figure out the bottom line. Where did the communication, where was it missed? So things like that in terms of the offense, man, that's the most important thing that I'm looking forward to. I have a lot more faith in the defense, so I'm not necessarily going to go too far into that side. I won't go into that side at all because I have a minute and I'm being timed.
We're a little bit over. Actually, we're in overtime right now.
Yeah, so that offense is the main thing that I'm looking forward to, and seeing how they respond after the first two games where they had 6 drives and basically just they couldn't put up any points.
Jamal, we want to thank you here from Ref the District for joining us today. Again, you can catch Jamal on the Trap or Dive podcast on Apple or on his Twitch, Let Maul Tell It. And this is Jamual Forrest. Thank you again for joining us here on Ref the District, man. We really do appreciate your company.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely, man. And like I told you, I'll be quick. I definitely appreciate it. And I just want to say this on the show too, man. I always appreciate the opportunity to talk ball with everybody and any opportunity that I'm given. Obviously this won't be the last time we link up. So again, appreciate the invite, and we will be in touch, my fellas.